IndieGamesAAA.com.
Happy Friday, everybody! You know what time it is. It's time for the results show of the Great Digital TCG Search of 2014. As you can see, my hair is gone, and I'm more beardly than the last time you saw me. That's what happens when you have 2 weeks, and I am out of school and all that good jive. So, you can also see my cat in the background over this side. Little tiger is sleeping there. But let's talk about some games, huh? So, for the past 2 weeks, I covered Hearthstone and I covered Shadow Era for Group C. For Group C. And yeah, I played both games. I've been playing Hearthstone for a good bit now. So it was one of the games I was most familiar with. I'd put that along the category of like Soulforge and Hearthstone were the two games that I played the most leading up to me doing coverage of them. And so I'm pretty familiar with Hearthstone, and I was only semi-familiar with Shadow Era. Shadow Era is an interesting thing, considering that it's also a physical TCG as well as a digital TCG, which I think it would be very interesting to play that in physical form, although I'm out of the physical realm of card games now. So, yeah, Hearthstone definitely, out of every single game that I've played so far, has the best motivation for playing solo. You unlock cards by playing solo. You get the biggest rewards. It's best to try out decks against those opponents. So I thought that out of every single game, I definitely enjoyed playing Hearthstone like casually against the computers the most. Whereas a few other games like Scrolls and especially like Faria didn't necessarily have the best computer matches or rewards. Faria you couldn't even play solo, really. You could only play the campaign missions once, and then you were kind of forced to play online games, so I wasn't able to practice. It doesn't seem like I could try out decks in Faria, whereas Hearthstone definitely gives me a ton of motivation to like come back and play against the computers. Daily rewards are really good. Now, when I covered War of Omens, it didn't have that yet, but now it does. So that game does that well too. Soulforge is okay against computers, but like it's not to the level of motivation that Hearthstone seems to achieve. Hearthstone definitely does that really well. Shadow Era was really cool. It kind of felt like everything else I've been doing, though. Maybe just not as good or polished as those other things. So it definitely seemed like a digital version of a physical TCG. I could see myself playing that in like physically with other people, and the mechanics kind of work that way. Whereas Hearthstone definitely feels more like the digital game that I'm looking for. It's it's great animations and really works really well on a touch screen. Has online tournaments and everything, and Shadow Era definitely has some of those things, but it kind of feels like a port. And it was the last game I kind of added into the mix. I wanted to try Hex, but couldn't. If you watch some of the other casts, I explain why. So yeah, I think I decided that Hearthstone definitely has to move on. And one of my main metrics for judging these games is like, what do I find myself wanting to pick up and play, at the drop of a hat? And Hearthstone commonly, over the past maybe even like month, has been something that I've gone back to and tried playing again and again, because it's so simple to pick up and play. And quite frankly, like the accessibility of a Shadow Era isn't quite as apparent, on my tablet or anything. I can't just boot it quickly and have it run. You could run it in the web browser, but it seems like it would be suboptimal. There's an EXE and a web browser client for that game. Both work relatively well. I've tried both out. Played more in the web browser because it's easier to just like boot up your. Usually do that instead of downloading the exe, but I wanted to download the exe for coverage. So yeah, I think Hearthstone definitely is the prettiest game I've covered so far. It does the best job of like animation and music, stuff like that. Hearthstone is pretty much by far and away the best at that. In terms of the card mechanics and everything, it's still got a ways to go to become more complex and beyond just a mathematical one-on-one game, but I can't wait to try it again in the Final Four. Shadow Era definitely, unfortunately, was a last-minute addition, so it probably didn't get as much of my time as I would have liked to give it. But yeah, so next week, the Final Four will begin. I will be covering Soulforge and Scrolls. So if you want to know the Final Four in the end, it was decided that the Final Four would be the number 1 seed Soulforge against the number 4 seed Scrolls, as well as the number, I don't remember the seed, I think it was the 2 seed Hearthstone against the 6-seeded War of Omens. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I look forward to looking at Scrolls again the most because it's really nice looking, and definitely out of the Final Four games is the most different. But Soulforge should be fun too. I always like going back to that. So yeah, I will get on those, and so next week I will be covering Scrolls, and then the following week I'll be covering Soulforge for the Final Four. If you have any comments on the Final Four, please leave them below. And yeah, let me know what you think about this whole thing. What you think about the decisions I've made so far. Just tell me how dumb I am. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week for the beginning of the Final Four, which I'm super excited about. EP13. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I will talk to you soon.